So I see a lot of participants coming right now. Most of you joined just now, so we can give another 2 minutes before we start. Hopefully you can hear us well. We are here together with Murali.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, maybe time to start.
Indeed.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are based, anywhere in the world. Murali?
Hello, welcome to the webinar on digital transformation platform strategies for success. Dimitris and I will take you through the next 60 minutes or so with a few questions towards the end.
So thank you very much for joining today. Congratulations, you are almost at the end of the course. I hope you learn a lot and you enjoy the course, and I hope also the group work works well. Sometimes it's a challenge, but sometimes it's a lot of fun. So today, as you can see, this is almost the last live session of this course. Is the office hours that we have together with Murali. And of course, the main purpose of this webinar today, it is to have your questions and answer your questions. But of course, at the same time, what we will try to cover, it is a very quick recap from my side about what you learned the previous weeks. This is just to make sure that we are all aligned. And then Murali is going to make a brief for the next important group assignments that we're going to have, the SAP, which is about governance, and the Capstone 3 assignment. And then we will open the floor for all of you to come up with any questions. So let's start. And before I start with design, let me take it out for a moment and say, this is something very, very important right now. Something that maybe it's not so much highlighted in this course, but I hope you all understand because you are all very experienced. We talk about platform and we talk about design, and many people, they might think much more the technical part of this. And when we talk about platform, based on my experience, many people, they think it is a technical solution where everything works automated. The reality is a bit different. And before we start anything, we have always to think about the value proposition. You know, like in business. In business, what's very important is to have a customer. If you don't have one customer, at least you don't have a business. So if you don't have a strong value proposition to attract at least one provider and attract at least one consumer, you don't have a business. You don't have to spend your time about designing and monetizing and governance and launching. It's a waste of time. So this is very important. You have to create a great value proposition, and maybe you can make an enthusiastic segment in providers that would like to join you, or enthusiastic segment in consumers. Certainly, it's much better if you are already an established business and maybe you have already a lot of traffic of B2B or B2C customers, and then you can build a platform business on top of what you do as pipeline. But in case you don't do it and you want to start from scratch, value proposition is the number one thing that you have to consider before anything else. Before you think about design. Yeah, sorry, I don't show anything in the screen right now before we start. So there's nothing, it's nothing wrong with that. I just put it in white. So value proposition is something very, very important you have to consider. And we hope we can see it as well in Capstone 3. So, and value proposition, as we discussed, it's about empathy. So you have to care about how your providers think and how your consumers think. And it is about minimum valuable platform of product where you test if your understanding works well before you launch. So going on, what you learned in this course, it's a lot about design, right? And we talk about the value unit. You have to define the value unit of your platform. So once you clarified, of course, the value proposition, what is the value unit? For example, for Airbnb, Airbnb facilitates exchange of space. So the value unit of Airbnb is the exchange of space. It helps people to take decisions about what they will rent. It takes as well people to transact or to book. This is the main value actually of Airbnb. So very, very important on one side is to how you are going to attract providers and consumers. And the other part it is how you make them interact and transact. Because in case you just have registered consumers and providers, is many times useless if they don't have interactions and transactions. So liquidity, how many interactions and transactions you're going to have in a platform is critical. So you have to consider that when you design it. And of course, we talk here about architecture, about network effects. You know very well, network effects exist as well in pipeline business, not only in platform business. And like in pipeline, for example, the more stores you have, the more consumers you will have. And the more consumers you have, maybe the more stores you create. So you have cross-side network effects anyway in any kind of business, not only platform business. How you can create same-side network effects is the main challenge. And of course, what we hear here is that having openness and creating APIs and having modularity, you have more chances actually to bring on board the right providers and have them enjoying the experience, but also the consumers on the other side. We will not spend a lot of time about that. I hope you all understand that we're talking about active participants in the platform, not just participants. I've seen so many companies that they have a chance of having registered participants, registered providers, registered consumers, but they don't do anything, or they do so little that makes no sense for the platform, of course, to continue. So this is very important thing that probably you learn and you understand about platforms. The other part is about monetizing. And maybe if I get sarcastic here, sometimes the most successful platforms, they show us how you can burn billions to lose billions. So we talk about Uber. Definitely it's not like that because you build for the future. And it's not only about Uber, how it started, but how Uber probably will provide solution in the future. And normally many of the platforms, including Facebook and including Uber, it took them quite many years before they started monetizing. However, if you build a platform where you want to have ROI in 2 or 3 years, you may have to consider a completely different way of how you monetize the platform. Apologies, it looks like somebody tells me that there is echo in the audio. I will close the door. I don't know whether by closing the door it will work better. and I will come closer to the microphone. I hope this might be better. So when we talk about monetizing, it's important whether you have funding for long-term play or your funding is just for 2 or 3 years. And if you have enough funding for long-term business, then okay, you can have a pricing which is about adoption. You want as many people to come to the platform. You want to create stickiness. You don't want ROI immediately. However, if you have a normal business where you would expect profit in 2 or 3 years, then you have a different consideration. Of course, if you have a strong value proposition, it's easy to monetize. If you have a weak value proposition, it's very difficult to monetize. This is why value proposition is very important. If your value proposition is weak, you will not make money. That's very, very important. So we talked, of course, about transaction cut, how you can make a commission out of the transaction between the two providers. This is something we do in business anyway. It is pay for access. That's a very good way as well to make money by letting different parties to have access to the community that you built, like in LinkedIn. How you blend advertisement with content, something that Facebook is doing without disrupting very much your audiences. It's not always easy to do, but if you're a monopoly, you can do it because there's nobody else who compete with you. And of course, paying for tools. So this kind of freemium, you offer something for free. And if you want a better experience, you have to pay for that. That's something that many companies already use. So that's about monetization. Again, if your value proposition is weak, none of those strategies will help you to make money. So that's why we talk about value proposition. And many of the companies that they are successful, they don't go broad to cover the whole market. They can go to a niche and they can provide a very good value and they can make a good profit. Not the billions of Uber, but profitable earlier than 3 years, instead of waiting 10 or 20 years till you start making some profit. So that's important about monetization. About launch, unless you are very, very confident that your idea is great and everybody loves it, never go for a big bang strategy. It's a suicide. All the other strategies are good. And what we expect, I think Murali will talk by far more about that at Capstone 3. It's not a good practice to start blending 2 or 3 or 4 strategies together when you start, but you may consider different strategies in different stages of your business maturity. That could make sense. And we talk about governance as well, right? Governance, I know it's not a sexy word in business. Who in business wants to make governance? It sounds like government, bureaucracy, policing people. It's, I mean, launching, designing, all those other things, they are by far more important. It's like you are in a war, right? Monetization, maybe money, it's great. Governance, but governance is very important when the parties that work together, like in platforms, they have autonomy. They can decide if they come and go. So governance is very, very important because unless with your governance you select the best providers to come in your platform and you keep them over there, you have no product, you have no service to sell. This is critical for platforms. So in governance, what we consider is, first of all, who participates, of course, and who creates or adds value. Then all together, we create more value for the consumers? How do we divide this value? How we can resolve conflicts? Because in a platform, you have competitors competing. So the platform should find ways to prevent or to resolve conflict, ideally to prevent conflict. And this is why the SAP also case is quite interesting to consider, and not only. So the goal of governance is how you can help with the governance to create more wealth for everybody and distribute it fairly among the parties. It's a very general statement. I think you learn by far more during the course how to consider potential problems that different companies have with governance. So although we are in a free market, a capitalistic market where everything should be free, right? Still, you want to avoid that experts take advantage of amateurs in the platform, like the case in eBay, right? So you want to manage information asymmetries that happen so that everybody enjoys the experience and they feel like there is a level of fairness. You want to avoid negative externalities, like somebody creating bugs or problems actually in the platform. You don't want to have monopolies. You don't have some dominant players in the platform, but you want to have more democratization. You want to avoid the risks. You need the right tools. You need people. Yes, you need people for governance. Unless you have the right people on board to engage the right providers to join the platform and keep them engaged, you cannot do anything. Like in the design, you need people to create machine learning, AI algorithms, to have a certain level of intelligence to do the right matching. You can do recommendations. Can be bad recommendations, it can be good recommendations. You can make matching. It can be bad matching or it can be good matching. It depends whether you have the right talents on board. Talents to create the right algorithms and help everybody to enjoy it in terms of design, and talents also in governance to keep engaged the different participants, especially the providers. You cannot do it just with a button. You cannot just get the criminal record and the ID of participants and you expect you will bring the best on board and they will provide a great experience. That's a wishful thinking, but it does not happen. So although you don't need a lot of assets to succeed in platforms, you need a lot of effort. It's a data intensive business. So you need, it's a human intensive business as well. So you need excellent talents to manage all the different aspects of platforms. It's not like that, it's not just technical, everything. And of course, there are global common values about what people think about fairness, and they appreciate transparency and to try to bring everybody on board and participate. So that's what you learn during the course, and I hope you understand that this is one of the big changes versus governance is so much more important versus a pipeline business where everything is better managed from a company. So that's all from my side. I think Murali will come on board and we'll try to see how we try to apply our knowledge with the assignments.
Thank you, Dimitris. Okay, everybody, welcome to this session, and I'm going to take next 10 minutes or so and talk a little bit about some practical aspects of governance, as well as the practical aspects of designing a platform, which happens to be the SAP case. which is a group assignment. And of course, the next group assignment is the capstone part 3, developing a concept proposal. So with a little bit of a background in Microsoft and SAP, I have a little bit to contribute. This may or may not be a hint to what the solution could be for SAP to determine whether the Nakisa should be a tier 1 or tier 2 partner. But I'm just going to share with you some of my experiences in this area. And later on, I will talk a little bit about the design of the platform as well. So the SAP assignment has 4 parts. And the question 1, 2, and 3, you could answer by reading the case, and I'm sure you've already done that. Question 1 talks about how SAP categorizes the different parties and the tiers in the ecosystem. How do they manage the multiple sites? And what sort of conflicts that are likely to arise as part of the structure? And how do they resolve them, or how do you resolve them? And does it have an effective system of engagement of these ecosystem partners? And how does it foster this engagement and participation? So all of these are very much about creating a business model, a channel structure, or a marketplace on the platform where you bring together hundreds, if not thousands, of partners of various tiers from around the world. And you bring together a lot of customers in that environment as well. So you create an ecosystem of marketplaces where your products, as well as your clients, your partners' products, as complementary or extension or added value to your core products, can be of benefit to your overall marketplace or the overall customer segment. But what's more important is the question 4, what should SAP do to grant the status to Nakisa, whether they should stay where they are or whether they should give them tier 1. I presume they are currently, or they were currently on tier 2. And there's a lot of push by the CEO of Nakisa to become a tier 1. So what is a tier 1? I mean, the case may or may not make it very clear, but a tier 1 partner is an equal partner almost. So SAP would take on IBM, for instance, as a tier 1 partner, because IBM brings enormous strength in the marketplace in terms of their relationship and access to corporate and business clients. It also brings an enormous muscle to the SAP product line, because they could also develop lots of products. And of course, they have a tremendous IT infrastructure, technologies like mainframes and other solutions, both hardware and software solutions that they offer, on which the SAP as an application could be implemented. And of course, IBM has a very strong services team that can implement SAP as well. So you would expect IBM to be a tier 1 partner. Is Nakisa in the same league? We need to sort of think about that. And then, of course, if you look at another tier 1 partner, such as Microsoft with SAP, Microsoft also brings lots of infrastructure strength, lots of strength in the access to the marketplace. So you have a combination of large businesses or companies that are global, that have a tremendous strength in technology, tremendous strength in application development, in complementary to SAP, and tremendous strength in access to the marketplace, and being able to bring all of that together to SAP in a kind of a non-compete way. If SAP had looked at Oracle as a partner, that would be a severe change, because Oracle is a competitor. So you would not find Oracle being a tier 1 partner for SAP. So SAP is looking for some complementary, global, very strong technology partners in that space, and that's where the tier 1 comes in. So we need to now look at how this whole thing plays out in the marketplace. Can we have the next slide, please? So there is a dilemma here, or a conflict for SAP. On one hand, they would like to promote their partners from tier 3 to tier 2 as they bring more and more value to the SAP ecosystem and hopefully to tier one. But on the other hand, they need to be careful how many people or companies do they have in tier one versus tier two versus tier three in a kind of a pyramid structure. That is the ideal situation to get in. Here is the dilemma. If you are a product company, it doesn't matter what product you in this case, an ERP solutions, you can either take this product to market direct, and you need to establish a significant global sales, marketing, and services teams, both professional services and post-sales services teams. Or you could go completely indirect to the market through an appointment of a very strong channel partners or resellers or integrators or service providers or agencies, whatever way you want to call it. You create this marketplace of channel partners or partnerships in the marketplace who would in turn sell these products on your behalf. And in that process, out of a, let's say, $100 revenue, they might take $40 and SAP might get only $60. Whereas if they went direct, they would take all of the $100 of the revenue. So you sacrifice some of the revenue, but what you get in return is a low cost, because you don't have to invest in sales, marketing, and services as much, because your partners are going to do a lot of that. You only have to develop an appropriate programs to support these channel partners, and that's where the governance comes in. So would you do that 100% direct or 100% indirect? Or would you have some kind of a mix where you take on some top customers around the world, like General Electric or General Motors and companies like that, and then leave the rest of the marketplace for the smaller partners to deal with? And the same question arises with respect to developing a product. Would you develop all of the products and extensions and new versions and new technologies all by yourself in-house, or you are going to cooperate with the partners so that they could also bring some development and R&D into the mix? And so the channel focus, the marketplace platform focus, if you like, can be, whether this is going to be development, design, and value add, or is it going to be marketing and sales, or a mix of both? So you've got lots of different balls here up in the air to play with, and you need to get this right before you decide this partner is going to be in this particular tier. So other questions arise, and I'll take you through this very quickly, and these dilemmas and conflicts constantly play out, particularly in technology marketplaces. Should the customer, should my partners be driven by targets? Should I give them a quarterly target and say, well, this 3 months or next quarter, you're going to make $10 million. The quarter after, you're going to do 11 million. The quarter after that, 12 million. Do you want to drive them with this kind of a sales target? Or you are going to be value driven? Value could be anything as simple as a relationship, or creating more access into the marketplace, or developing a new technology, or extending the product line with the new value add features. Or the relationship thus can be a very transactional relationship or a strategic relationship. And strategic relationship always create a lot of loyalty. And I wouldn't be surprised if you look at it, if you look at Nakisa today, they are not only partnering with SAP, but also partnering with SAP's enemies, SAP's competitors, like Oracle, for instance. So you need to question their loyalty a little bit. Then, we need to ask ourselves as SAP executives or decision makers, are we competing with our partners in this space, or are we going to cooperate with the partners, or is it going to be some mix? So SAP seems to have got that governance correct by saying they are going to have a very definitive product plan, product development roadmap, and in which they will say, these are some of the product features that we will develop, and we are very happy for partners to come in and develop some of the other features and so forth. So they seem to have got that right. The platform itself, are we going to completely own this platform as an SAP platform? Or are we simply going to be there as a facilitator of this platform in which a lot of our partners are going to participate? Is this going to be a custom proprietary platform that we have a total control over? Are we going to make this into an open platform, meaning we not only share the technology, but we also share a lot of commercial values between us, such as the data that comes up in this platform? Is this going to be exclusive property of SAP? Or is it going to be exclusive property of some XYZ partner? Or is some of this available to other partners as well? How open is this platform from both technical perspective as well as a commercial perspective? How do we control these partners? How do we develop these relationships? What sort of tangible or intangible benefits are we trying to develop? How do we get that mix right? So the whole aspect of all of this is about, how do we ensure there is right level of governance? And when we get to that right level, do we impose it on the platform? Or we simply let the platform decide for itself? And this is a perennial question that all industries are dealing with, and in the banking industry particularly, because the governments are constantly trying to control the banking industry, and banking industry is constantly saying, look, we are very good as professional business people. We can manage our governance ourselves. So this question is, should it be left to self-govern, or should market forces decide how this particular platform should be governed? When we say market forces, we are talking about competition in the market forces. Let the best succeed. Let the supply and demand dictate, what happens in terms of the rules and guidelines as governance on this platform. Or if we don't do adequately what we needed to do here as a governance, government is going to come in and regulate this industry for us. And as we have seen with Facebook, they've been fined $5 billion, and the government of US is going to impose a whole lot of supervisory and other control mechanisms on Facebook in terms of how they would run their business. And Facebook itself has admitted that it needs to get its act together in privacy and security and so forth. And they have appointed a chief privacy officer, and they're going to take this governance very, very seriously. So these are the complex issues of governance dilemma. And in this instance, in this situation, what would be your vote in terms of tier 1 for Nakiza or tier 2 for Nakiza? Can I get you, just as a bit of fun and serious fun, tell me in your chat, what do you think you should be offering to Nakiza, tier 2 or tier 1? There is no polling. You can simply say tier 1 or tier 2. Just type in, what do you think in your assessment is the right place to put Nakiza? Buy them out. That's one option, indeed. Okay. Okay. We are seeing almost equal, and lots of people are saying tier 1, and my own personal vote is that they should be a tier 2 partner and not a tier 1 partner for all of the various reasons that I mentioned. And of course, you need to be, we can kind of go into Nakiza's strategy right now, look at their website, and you can figure this for yourself, and you will find that Nakiza is not exactly a very loyal partner of SAP, but they are also working with SAP's competitors like Oracle. That's number one. And number two, Nakiza themselves have set up their own channel platforms, and they are behaving more and more like SAP themselves. So it seems like they are now big enough around the world to be able to say, well, we don't need to be a tier 1 partner of SAP, and we can set up our own platform of partners and customers, and we can develop this kind of this platform ourselves. Okay, let me move on to the next slide, please. So just a bit of an interesting background to where Nakiza SAP plays out. Okay, I just want to touch a little bit about the platform idea, particularly the design aspect of the platform idea. And Dimitris has covered a lot of it. So this is the part 3 of the Capstone project, which once again is a group project. And this 6 steps that you see in front of you has actually come out of the template that we have provided you in the assignment. So there's nothing new here. It talks about how do you design, how do you monetize, launch, govern, leverage the network effects, and identify the next steps and so forth. And if you really enjoyed this course and you had the Platform Revolution textbook, I would urge you to refer to that book because it's got such a lot of good information. And you would actually do this this platform application to your unique business, whether it is a traditional business moving on to a platform, or you are as a startup with a new idea, developing a new platform idea. Whichever way, you will find this very useful. The next slide, please. I just want to take a minute to give you a little bit of a hint on a few hints on what are some of the things that you need to put in the design of the platform, which is the number one question. Dimitris, can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some examples, and I'm going to just share with you some key steps in the platform design, because what I found with previous cohorts or previous courses where people have designed platforms, and you find that they've done a little bit of a cut and paste from the textbook or from the videos and said, look, it must have this, it must have this, it must have this. But they haven't really gone into the specifics of their particular environment, the specifics design or architecture of their particular application, whether that company or that industry or that startup idea. So all I'm saying is, look, be very careful. Look at chapter 3 for core design on what you need to do. And it's a very straightforward. You need these 3 things properly addressed. Who are the participants on this platform? Whether they are service providers or service consumers or other participants in this network. Who are the participants? Who are the segments? And you need to be very careful about that and define that very clearly for your industry. And then look at what is the value unit that you propose that they exchange amongst themselves. It could be one value unit, or it could be multiple value units. In the case of SAP, the value unit is straightforward. It is about selling SAP systems and their modules. So we are talking about, SAP application as a value unit, and all of the related, information, support, design, R&D, everything that goes with it, as the value unit that is being exchanged on the SAP platform. And the third most important thing is having the appropriate filters. You don't want between various participants, particularly if they are in millions and lots of value units, too many conversations and things taking place, because that will break the whole platform. So you want to have very specific filters so that the appropriate value units attach to the appropriate participants. And what are we creating? What are these value units? The value units are things that are of particular value to the participant, and you need to create that value. You need to figure out what am I doing in terms of creating that value. In the case of SAP platform, you need to think about what is the value that they are creating online. It's a ready access to the SAP technologies. They're not the technology itself, but that has been developed by SAP. But the fact that it's available to people online, that information, that knowledge is the value unit. And how is this value unit consumed? In the case of SAP platform, customers might look at that information and say, well, it really addresses my business problems, and I need to have this particular technology or application installed, implemented in my company. Or there might be extension to my existing SAP system, and there are partners in the ecosystem that are coming forward with some solution that I'm very interested in. And you need to make sure that this is curated properly, that it is the right consumption with the right value proposition for the right customer and so forth. And how do we do that? And how do we create this network effect on the design of the platform? Is by ensuring that there is a tremendous amount of pull. Pull comes from attractiveness of the platform, the value unit propositions of the platform that really says to people, you come online and you can consume this, and you can solve your pain points, if you like. And how do we facilitate that pull? How do we match people and their transactions are really important. So even if you make a few remarks that you've thought through these issues and show all of this in a design diagram, there's no point in writing a huge lot of thesis about it, because we don't have a lot of time to read a lot of these things. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you can show clearly, even if it is a circle with a core platform and the edge of the platform with various different modules. And then you've got these producers, consumers, and connections taking place. And what are these interactions? And what are some of the features that you're going to build into this platform? Think about it as a product and say, if I'm going to develop this product, what are some of the key features of this product? So what are some of the key features of this platform? And also look at some design principles that we talked about. The end-to-end principle. What are the things that you'll put into the core of this platform, and what are the modules that you'll have at the periphery of the platform? The modularity of the platform. How do you create the blocks, the building blocks? The payment block, building block, and the e-commerce building block, and the advertising building block, and whatever else that you want to put together. Just make sure there is some mention of that, or even a picture of that. And then how do you make sure this is open, flexible, and it's easy to redesign, and the platform is evolving all the time? And it is most fundamentally user-driven. And you had to ask this question, you had to challenge SAP about this. SAP platform, is it owned by SAP or is it owned by the users? Who is developing this platform? Who is driving this platform? And how is this platform going to evolve? Is it because there are a number of users that are creating exceptional value because it's democratized and it's coming from all over the world? Or is it somebody sitting in Germany in an SAP headquarters determining what this platform will look like? Proprietary versus open. It's very important. And then how do you optimize this network for growth? And the growth could come from expected connections as well as unexpected connections. Sometimes user to user, participant to participant, suddenly something interesting happens. They find some creative ways of connecting and creating new values. Think about that and say, how can we promote that kind of thing? So other important thing is you have to learn and leverage from examples in the industry. And I've given you some example in which you are very familiar with. The product ones, the services ones, the information media exchange platforms, and the social interactions and so forth. But there's one that we always struggle with. And where is the traditional company that we know of? A bank or a manufacturing company or a retail company that has said, we will go from a traditional pipeline model to a platform model, and we've actually done that. I don't think so. They're still evolving. So it's very unfair to say, well, show me a company that's gone from, A to Z. No, it's not. I mean, we are somewhere in B or C or D. We've got a long way to go. However, there is a bank called ING Bank from Netherlands, of course, and they are definitely moving towards the WeChat of banking. They're saying, we are not a typical bank. We are an online bank. We are a digital bank. But our banking platform is going to be an open platform of banking. And what we offer to our customers, particularly to the millennials, is the banking solutions to suit their lifestyle. And all of the other related things they do in their lifestyle, we want to be part of. If they are traveling, if they are doing a course, if they are buying a property, if they're buying a car, they want to be part of that. They want to bring all of those partners into this open platform of banking. And that's a very interesting way for a traditional bank to move towards a platform strategy. And I hope you found this part interesting. Okay, Dimitris. Let me finish up by saying, let me bring up the big crossover there. Okay, so let me finish by saying, look, think original, think creatively, think outside the box, because that's exactly what we are looking for in your application of this theory of platforms, in creating what is a practical solution for your industry, for your company, for your community. So be very careful when you develop these things that you don't cut and paste a lot of the theory from the book or from what you've learned in the course and say, this is how this platform will be created. We're really looking for some practical examples. You could even give an example or a use case of customer X going through this process in the platform and deriving this benefit while connecting to other network of customers. Give us some examples, give us some facts and figures, give us some references that shows that you have researched this for your particular industry. All right, I'm going to finish there and invite you to give us some questions. type in your questions in your Q&A box, and Dimitris and I will try to answer them for you.
Thank you, Murali. And yes, it's very boring actually to see sometimes in Capstone 3, copy and paste of the theory. So
Yes.
we want you to be more specific about your idea. Whether you talk about governance or launch, it's not a copy and paste of the theory. We want you to talk specifically about your own idea. That can make a difference. And also related to Nikisa, I like actually this kind of setting quiz for tier 1 and tier 2. What's very, very important is your justification, your reasoning. We don't care whether you select tier 1 or tier 2. For example, Murali believes that they should be tier 2. I believe that they should be tier 1. What matters is the reasoning behind that. And this is what we're going to judge. So no matter what you believe, we will not grade according to whether you selected tier 1 or tier 2, but depending on your reasoning. And that's the way that you can learn. So, and yeah, maybe at the wrap-up session, I will tell you what SAP decided. I will tell you whether they decided to make them tier 1 or tier 2. It needs just a bit of search in internet 12 years ago, and all the information is over there. So let's go on. But again, this is not the point. It's not whether it is tier 1 or tier 2. We want you to work with pros and cons and take a decision, because that helps you to learn. Q&A. So now it's your time. Please let us know about, yeah. Murali, maybe I take the first one. I see Q1, Q3, Q4. For Q1, Har says need more guidance on thickness of the platform governance, how to measure it, how much is adequate, how to increase it. Question number 2. Need some guidance on information asymmetry and governance initiatives in general, what it is, how to increase it, and how to decrease it. Question number 3. Should we see it one by one before we go to question number 3 and number 4? So question number 1, anyway, first of all, let's think that this is office hours. So it will be impossible actually to explain in detail everything. It is, that could be also offline. We can take it offline to discuss each of those topics specifically. Some guidance on thickness of the platform governance, how to measure it. How to measure platform governance, we measure it with the engagement of the participants. Are they engaged or not? Do they provide value to each other or not? There are certain KPIs behind that. How much is adequate? Is as much as one side provides a good experience to the next side. That would need probably a completely different discussion and how to increase, we cannot really increase governance, but the important principles about governance is make sure that you bring on board the right providers, because otherwise you have bad product to sell. How you do it? You go out, depending on what business you do, it's different, and you try to select the right ones. How you select the right ones? You need a strong value proposition. If you don't have a strong value proposition, nobody will come with you. Then how do you keep them happy? This is where it goes back to the empathy. If you understand very well your providers, you know how to create a great experience for them, a great value proposition. I cannot go more into detail because we don't have the time today, but if you need to discuss offline or have some kind of email, we can discuss. And I say the second one needs some guidance on information asymmetry in governance initiatives in general, what it is and how to increase or decrease it. I think we have seen this example about eBay, right? Where somebody was selling a bottle of beer that had a very high value, but this person did not know about this value. And somebody, of course, was ready to buy it. And eBay was involved in between to avoid having a transaction where somebody was selling something very, very valuable, not knowing about that, and somebody taking advantage of this big difference of understanding about the value of the product. We can come up with many other examples like that. Many times the providers, they know much better than the consumers how the platform can facilitate the consumers having the right level of information. For example, ratings, whether the provider really provides a good service or not. That can improve the asymmetry of information and make it more symmetric so that everybody has the same level of information. Murali, what would you like to add on this?
Well, Hirsch asked some very intelligent questions and very important questions, and obviously, we need to answer them in the context of where he's coming from. I would like to take these questions and probably think about that in the context of whether this is banking related, industry related questions, or these are very general questions, or these questions relate to this particular case study with SAP. And I would like to have a conversation with Harsh offline because it's just too much to cover at this particular moment.
No, it's good questions, and this is why we're here, and we appreciate having those questions. I mean, the question number 3, as you can see, it says, in case platform users and platform users decision makers are different people, then what is important to govern? End users or decision makers? Both. And for example, bank management procedures, platform for internal usage, and system integrator employees deployed at bank are using that platform as contractors. We cannot go very much into detail, but in reality, we talk about governance of all the different participants in the platform. And we need to apply different tools sometimes and different principles for the different participants. And how to sustain a successful platform, that's a very nice question and very difficult answer. I would say by providing a great customer experience to all the participants in the platform. That's a very general answer as well, but I cannot make it more specific. Good. I see one more question from Enrico, right? What is the best way to handle and anticipate possible government intervention regulation when creating platforms? I would say that's normal, like in pipeline business. If you run a normal pipeline business, you make sure that you comply with laws and regulation, right? It's the same for platforms.
If I may add something there, it again depends on the particular political system in the country. We know, for instance, conservative governments do not want to interfere so much in the marketplace with the regulations and so forth. And that's where the laissez-faire style of governance comes in, where they let the market forces decide rather than constantly having to impose regulations. But there are other side of the political spectrum where people and political leaders and governments are very keen to impose appropriate regulations. So this conflict is constantly happening in a majority of the developed world, at least, and places like US, Australia, UK, even India and so forth, this constant tussle between letting the market govern itself or the industry players govern themselves, self-regulation effectively, versus government-imposed regulation. Nobody likes government-imposed regulation. It is already costing the government-imposed regulation, and the regulatory compliance is already costing industries billions of dollars. And there is actually at a point where people will start to unwind some of the regulatory aspects.
But still, I would like to add here, many times government intervention and regulation is very important, because having platforms, let's take Airbnb, who is not such a disruptive, maybe, platform like Uber. So if you think about Airbnb, in many, many places all over the world right now, they face major issues of having suddenly residential areas to have traffic of tourists inside. That creates a major issue. So it's not just about money. It's about quality of life of people. It's about many other things as well. So governments need to intervene. Now, how much they intervene and whether they intervene correctly or not, that's another thing, but that's their role at the same time. So this is why also the companies, they have to think as well how much they disturb also the market when they come up. It's great actually to disrupt the market, but by creating a major damage, you might also, instead of creating value sometimes, you might just destroy value. Any other questions? I see more questions coming, sorry. In the context of this, I'm okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions. I think you all know that we are here. If you have any question about content, you can always reach out to us and ask. We're happy to help you. And I'm pretty sure as well, looking at your assignment so far, that you all are experienced and smart people and understand very well what's going on with platforms, and probably many of you know by far better than us how to manage platforms. So looking forward to see your next assignments, especially the Capstone 3 in August. One more question maybe before we
We have a couple of questions in the chat box as well.
Really, sorry?
In the chat box, there are one or two questions.
I would prioritize the question at the Q&A, and we can have a look as well. Yeah, so in the from Baron, if a platform makes mistakes defined by regulators like Facebook, my question is how the fine is calculated and who gets the fine amount. If users lost its privacy, how he or she is compensated from the fine amount? That's a very good question, Varun. And what we can see also, disappointingly, sometimes companies like Facebook, that they have the knowledge about digital and they have all the money to protect the users. They don't necessarily do it, although they have all the resources and all the knowledge. If you are a monopoly, you can do whatever you want at the end of the day. But certainly Facebook, I think, takes actions, and hopefully that can help. I don't think that consumers will be compensated, unfortunately.
Not yet.
That was one of the chat questions, right?
Yeah, I think we answered all the questions.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much for joining, and looking forward to see you again at the wrap-up session. Have a nice day or have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. And just reminding, there is a survey that is being sent out. So I appreciate your time in filling that out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.